Welcome. So this episode of Reps, Edits and Real Talk is a little bit different. We're doing a question and answer. So I've had my clients and people around ask me questions. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to answer them. So also, this episode is brought to you by Iron Hub Gym, best in the Southeast, and Amino Age Peptides. So all the codes are in below. Check them out. Great products, great prices. So we're going to kick it off. First question from my client, Christy. She asked me, what's the best advice to someone who's starting coaching? Now, it's a tricky one because coaching's saturated. When I mean saturated, there are millions of people who want to be coaches. Now, my suggestion would be, first of all, make sure you're living the lifestyle. Right? If you're not living the lifestyle, how can you sort of tell other people how to live the lifestyle? Next point of view would be coach people for free. Right? You're not going to get any clients just straight off the bat, really, and you're not going to have a plethora of clients to coach straight away. So approach people, ask them, can I coach you for free? Start getting results, start posting results. People want to see results. So if you can post and show the actual process that people are going through and the results they're getting, that's all people really want to initially get started. Yeah, they want to see that you can get results with other people, that you can get results with yourself. And really, all you got to do is stay up to date with nutrition, which you should be because you're following the lifestyle too, training techniques, and then you're going to have to promote yourself somewhere. So Instagram, YouTube would be a good start. It's not the easiest industry to break through because there are millions of coaches. And now, in your situation, you're quite young, right? And you might want to look at a target audience. You might not be, you're a female obviously, so you're not going to be going for big open bodybuilder size people, to coach. You might want to look at just the gen pop, maybe just general females. You might want to go to mums, people that just want to lose 10, 20 kilos. That might be your starting base. Once you've established yourself with those people and you can get results, then try and branch off into what I'd say is the target that you want to stay in, the niche that you want to work within. If you sort of stay in that area of just weight loss and whatnot, that's fine too. But if you want to go into high level coaching of athletes, you will probably have to take on some athletes at a cheaper rate, get results with them, and then progress through the ranks, so to speak. So coaching is saturated, but if you're a good coach and you work at it, you can definitely make a good living off it. And just so you know, people think that coaching is, it's easy, you can work whenever you want. You're going to be a counselor. You're going to get thousands of messages every day about non-coaching related things, okay? And you're probably going to be working 6 days a week. All right? You might not work the 9 to 5, but you may work early mornings. You might have to train in it yourself, obviously, work after training. And even at the start, you might be doing late at night as well. Once you've established yourself though, you can then sort of set harder guidelines to when your work hours are. And always be aware that you don't really want to be working all night. It's not sustainable, but at the start, you're probably going to have to put in more hours than you probably thought you needed to. But the main thing is get results, market yourself, push some content. Look, there's two ways as well. You can be a content coach or you can be a results-based coach. I think you have to be a bit of both, but if you're going to look at what's going to get you the most clients, results. Yeah. People obviously want to see the content, but what do they want most? Results. So that would be my suggestion. Next person I got. So my next question comes from my client, Luke. He asks, cycling on and off or blasting and cruising, which is better? So cycling, this is an anabolic question, obviously. And in these question and answers, you can ask me nutrition, training, supplementation questions, anabolics, peptides, whatever you like. Mentality questions, they're all good. But cycling on and off, benefits, I would say if you are a person that's maybe a weekend warrior or someone that's not hell-bent on building the biggest, baddest physique in the country or something like that, longevity is the key. So you might want to be cycling on and off. Now, does it have health benefits? Yes and no. I mean, you could argue that staying on and just going to a TRT dose is healthier than coming on and off. That's, if you're sort of young, I would say under the age of 25, 30. And by the way, this is my advice, you know. If you're under the age of 30, I would say coming on and off would be a better bet. But if you get up to the age of 30 and you really want to pursue bodybuilding, you're gonna have a better physique blasting and cruising. Now that means when you're blasting, you're pushing anabolics up to super high levels, and then cruising means you're coming down to a level where you can recover from. And everyone's cruise is different. All right, the cruise of someone who is in the first year of bodybuilding compared to maybe an elite level bodybuilder is going to be different, because they need more to maintain their muscle mass. You know, that's just the way it is. Also, cruising, the period of cruising is essential because you can't just have your foot to the floor all year. If you're a horse, think of like blasting as you're on the home straight and you get whipped. The cruise is where you take the whip out and you just gallop a bit. All right, you're refreshing your body, refreshing your mind, bringing your health markers all back, and then obviously going again. You will build more muscle, in my opinion, blasting and cruising, but you've got to think long term. If you're going to blast and cruise, you're almost telling yourself that you are going to be on TRT for the rest of your life. So you're going to be pinning testosterone probably for the rest of your life. If you come on and off and you can, you know, regenerate your natural testosterone, you probably don't have to do that. You don't have to do TRT forever. So there are pros and cons. In the end, it's going to come down to what you want to do and the path you want to take. But I always tell people, if you are prepared to use anabolics, you might have to think that you might have to be on them forever. Okay, not just to build muscle, but literally to keep your testosterone where it needs to be to maintain a good life. Because if your testosterone drops down and you've been on anabolics for a long time, when you take them out, you don't feel that good. All right, so it's an individual case. Someone like myself, I made the decision at like 25 to start using anabolics. All right, I'm a competitive bodybuilder. I'm near 40 now. I'm going to be on TRT for the rest of my life. And that's the decision I've come up with. I've looked at the pros, the cons, the health risks and benefits, and that's the decision that I've come to. So no one can decide what direction you take, but you have to look at it from all areas. Yeah. Is it just a flash in the pan that you're doing bodybuilding for a bit, or is it something you really want to pursue at a high level? All right. Next one. So this is a question from my client, Zach, who just competed last month, and he did an absolutely stellar job. He's got the abs of God. So Zach asks, does bodybuilding break or make people? So this is a good question. Bodybuilding's tough, mentally and physically, and just for your environment around you. So I'm going to say most people, I reckon they get broken by bodybuilding because they can't sustain it. It's not something that you just do for a little bit and then you stop and you're okay with it. You're either in it or you're out of it. You can't, if you want to be the best bodybuilder you want to be, you have to be all in. And that can take a mental toll on you, a physical toll, and the people around you. Now, that being said, a lot of people will say like, oh, my partner doesn't support my bodybuilding. That might be the case, but maybe you want to look at why they don't like bodybuilding in the first place. Are you being a prick? All right. Are you super restrictive whereby it doesn't suit their lifestyle at all? All right. Are you grumpy 99% of the time? Are you angry when they eat food that you can't eat? So generally when I find people aren't with the partner that supports them through bodybuilding, it's generally not what the partner thinks, it's what you're doing that's made them resent bodybuilding to a degree. But some also struggle with like unrealistic expectations. So people get into bodybuilding and they think, yeah, I'm going to be Mr. This, I'm going to win. And then they realize it's not that easy. Yeah, so they build themselves up to be the best, tell themselves they're going to be the best. They do their first show and then they realize maybe there's a lot of work to be done. And bodybuilding is always a marathon, not a sprint. So you've got to think, okay, this is the starting point. The end point is not around the corner, it's miles away. If you use myself for an example, I started bodybuilding and competing at 19. God, it's been a long time ago, right? And I'm 39 now, and I'm still doing it. Like, I know a lot of people that have competed that have started when I competed and they don't even train anymore, all right? I also know a lot of people who started when I started and bodybuilding has taken over their life, whereby they haven't progressed in other areas of their life. They don't own a home. I know you don't have to own a home to be successful, but they don't really they haven't built a life that's sustainable outside of bodybuilding, all right? They don't have a career set. They just literally live month to month doing bodybuilding, putting all their money into bodybuilding, food, supplementation, training, and nothing else in their life to show for it. Now, maybe some people want to live like that, but really to be the best bodybuilder, you got to first, I think, have a career before bodybuilding. Like the chance of you becoming an elite level influencer are little to none, all right? And if you want to be the best bodybuilder, you need money. It's not cheap. And albeit you don't go and drink on the weekends, or you shouldn't be doing all the things that maybe other people don't do, but you've got to have a baseline of income coming in that can fund your bodybuilding. It is not cheap to eat, supplementation, blood work. These are all things that people don't take into consideration when they think about bodybuilding for a long term. And is it sustainable? So I've seen people be broken after one show. I've seen people do bodybuilding virtually for their whole life. All right, but the main thing is you need to have all the boxes ticked in order to keep bodybuilding at a reasonable level if you want to be successful in it. So we got the next question here. This is a good one. So this is from Sean. He's the host of the other segment we have on here. How to create the biggest, baddest mofo bodybuilder. I'm going to take this as let's do a scenario here. So I'm going to take it like this. We've got someone who's already eating right. We've got someone who's training, someone who's tracking everything, someone that's progressively lifting, right? How do we become the best bodybuilder? First point of call is get as lean as possible. If I was creating the best bodybuilder I could, okay, I would do this. I would train naturally up until a certain age, until you hit your genetic potential. Now, you're not going to really know when that is, right? But say you've done everything right for the last 5 years, and now you're no longer progressing, I'd say that's a pretty decent whack. Now, we're talking about advanced bodybuilding here. So to get superhuman size, you are probably going to have to use anabolics, all right? So I'm going to take that route. So we've got someone maybe who's 25. Okay, I'll tell them, okay, let's do a natural show. Let's get you as lean as possible. And a natural show teaches you how to diet without any assistance. It gets you right down to the bare bones. You cannot rely on drugs. You get as lean as possible doing a show. Okay, after that, this would be the best time, in my opinion, to bring in an anabolic. Maybe something just as basic as testosterone. Okay, could you use more? Yeah, you could, but I don't think you'll require it. So after the show, check your health markers, make sure you're good to go. Chances are, if you're natural, your health markers are not going to be the best after a show because your testosterone is going to be like pretty rock bottom. Thyroid will be down-regulated. So there's going to be a bit of a recovery phase there. Now, what I would say is if you're in a decent position from there, add a baseline level of testosterone. From there, you will ramp up, okay? Maybe up to, if your first exposure, it might be something like start at 250 milligrams. These are just recommendations, by the way. I'm not a doctor, all right? These are just what I've seen work in people. So maybe start at 250 milligrams. And remember, your training, everything is on lock here. Your nutrition, you've got everything down par. So 250 milligrams, start titrating your food up with the anabolics in. Now you might go up to maybe 500 milligrams in total. From there, obviously your growth progression is going to be quite rapid because your body is primed to suck food in. Now it's also primed to get fat too. But in this case, you've gone from natural, added in anabolics. You hopefully have a coach that is not going to just push drugs into you like a madman or woman. Okay, they're going to be respectful and know that you don't require much to grow at your first cycle. All right, from there, your food's going to go up, your training intensity is going to go up because you're going to be able to recover more. Okay, and that would be like your first cycle. That would be creating the monster. Okay, now after that first cycle, you'd have to come off, like we talked about before, either coming at you making the decision, remember, all right, you and your coach, you either come off or you cruise and you repeat the process Always start the cycle as lean as you can. Introduce one anabolic or peptide, whatever you want to do at a time, so you assess the response and then move from there. Okay, each time you're adding something, you don't have to add something in each time, but you're progressing something every time you do it. Now do that for 10 years at a time, no, 10-year blocks. When you hit about 40, you should be around your peak, okay? And like I said, you're gonna be more advanced because every time you up-level yourself through training and nutrition, you understand how your body works, you understand your response to drugs, to training, nutrition. You should be going like this. Now it's not gonna be perfectly, going up like that. You'll be up, down. It should be a way, but the progression should be quite linear if you look at it from the bird's eye view. So that would be my suggestion to build the biggest, baddest bodybuilder. But like I said, it takes time. So it's something that you can't look at, in 2 to 4 years, you're not that guy. If you're watching this now, you're not that person, right? You are not Phil Heath, who looked like a bodybuilder when he played basketball. You're not. And even if your friends say you got great genetics, your genetics are not that good. And that's real talk, like proper real talk. Just because your friends say you're gonna be this and that, you're probably not. So I always tell people, train like you have the worst genetics in the world. And if you can train like you have the worst genetics in the world, you'll become the best bodybuilder you can. But it's a rinse and repeat process that goes over years, over decades to become the biggest, baddest person you can. Next question. So we got a peptide, it's a question about peptides and one of the supplements. So the first one is from Charlie. He's a client of mine. He's in ripper shape at the moment too. So opinion on glutathione, and then what are your top 3 peptides or bodybuilding aids at the moment? Glutathione's great, very, very good detoxifier, great antioxidant. Now, glutathione, I would always go for the injectable version. Now, Amino Edge actually have the injectable version in, I think it's 1,500 milligram vial. Now, anybody can benefit from glutathione, okay? It's the core antioxidant, it's good for the liver, it's good for many bodily processes. So I would say it serves a great, you can use it anywhere. You could use it in a diet phase, you could use it in a push-up phase, you could use it in a health phase. I personally like to use it more so in a health phase, but you can use it in any other phase because you're trying to get as healthy as possible, and glutathione is going to aid, and I've seen it, it aids especially liver health, fantastic for that. But like I said, the injectable version is way better than anything you're going to take orally. But in the push-up phase, liver health is super important because if your liver's toxic, you're going to feel toxic, you're not going to be able to eat, okay? And also, if you look at it in a diet phase or a contest prep phase, you're doing things that maybe are not so healthy for your liver. You may be taking some orals, right? You may be using compounds which are a bit harsh, so glutathione will also help with that. Like I said, I personally like to use it more so in a cruise phase for myself, TRT phase where I'm trying to recover my health, but I have recently implemented it into my growth phase. I like to personally use it on my rest days, okay, and I normally do 500 milligrams on my rest days at night. And so that's 2 times a week. You can do it more. 3 times a week is very acceptable too. And you can do it at lower doses and whatnot, but I found 2 to 3 bolus doses a week has worked best for me. Top 3 peptides or bodybuilding aids. I'm not gonna go over creatine, glutamine and protein powder and stuff. I'm gonna go quite a bit more advanced. So I'm gonna look at like peptides / things that can help you with your workouts and whatnot. So I would say one of the first things would be SLU PP332, all right? So Sloop. Now this is a exercise mimetic type of supplement where you take it, you will get a very, very rapid focus that happens instantly. And I'm talking about low doses. You can see people using high doses like 10, 20 milligrams. I personally have not done that, but I'm not saying I'm against it. I just haven't done it. I've done up to about 1 gram. But you can use 250 micrograms to start with and taper up from there. What you get is you get increased focus during your sessions, increased ability to recover within the workout. So you'll find that you do a set and you feel like you're almost ready to go very quickly after the set, which is very peculiar because it's a weird feeling. And if you've tried it, you know, it is a supplement that is huge at the moment. Everyone's talking about it for good reason, all right? But be aware, there are not really huge long-term studies on it yet. So if you're going to take it, you've got to be aware of that. But I haven't seen any detrimental effects in me or any of my clients using it. I've actually seen blood markers improve on it. So take that for what it's worth. So that's one, SOUPP3. Next one, I would say retatrutide. So retatrutide, in my area of physique development, I'm not necessarily using it for appetite suppression or in any clients. I want it in the background for the health benefits. So we're looking at kidney health generally improves. Cholesterol, especially LDL, normally drops rapidly with triglycerides as well. Liver enzymes always come down. HbA1c and insulin levels always get better. And these things are not just beneficial for bodybuilding, but for longevity, okay? So yes, it does help with appetite suppression, and you can utilize it and leverage it in a diet phase. You can also use it in an off season at a very low dose, right? Because those other benefits we talked about, they can help prolong your off season, prolong you from getting insulin resistant, and they can work in synergy with other compounds that you might be using in your off season. Third one is something I'm just trialing now. So it's called MOTC. And also what it does is it helps, it's a mitochondrial up leveler, really. So it makes your mitochondria work better and improves it. So what I've noticed using that is very, very quick energy levels increasing during your workouts, perceived like you're able to recover quicker, all right? And what I've found is combining this peptide with combining with SLU, it will take your workouts to another level. And I'm talking low doses. So I've trialed 1 milligram, all right, 1 milligram, 30 to 45 minutes pre-training, all right, along with 500 micrograms of SLU. That's my sort of go-to at the moment. And if you don't have good workouts with that, you're probably not destined to have good workouts ever. And that's brutally honest. But like I said, it might not be the starting point for your entry into peptides, or these other compounds, but they all serve a purpose, and it can be very beneficial with the right person in the right situation. All right, but like I said, I'm not a doctor. It's your choice to try these things, but if you're willing to try them and give them a go, you'll probably find great benefit from them. And they're non-hormonal, right? So females can use them too. This is not just something that males can use. Females can use them, and I always say, start low, go slow. Do not start at the top and say, oh, someone's taking 10 milligrams, I'm gonna start there. Don't do it. Like, why waste your money? Start low, find your sweet spot, and stay there, all right? So this next question is from my client, Lauren, who's an absolute warrior of a woman. Now, when people say that, like, oh, I haven't got time to train and this and that, people like her they got kids, busy household, they find time to train, they support their partner who also competes as well. If they can do it, anyone, not anyone, but most people could do it, all right? So her question, now this is deep. So it says, did having children change your concern about using PEDs? Yeah, it did. I would say it did. Now, when you're younger without kids, you might not think about it like, oh, the future, could this harm me? You do, but to a different extent. Once you have kids, you realize that if they lose their father because of my ignorance, I'm stuffing up their lives and my partner's life to a degree as well. So yes, it did change my perception and makes you think about things. And what it's made me do is I get blood work I always got blood work regularly, but I'll get blood work a lot, all right? And I'll be monitoring everything I do, because in the end, if something that I'm doing at the moment is gonna not just impact my life in a negative aspect, like it could end my life, that's very dramatic, but could really shorten my life, the knock-on effect is on my family. So definitely I've looked at making sure that I do this in the safest way possible since having kids. And I wasn't reckless before, but you look at it a little bit different. Next one is, How would I feel if my daughters wanted to use PEDs? Now that's heavy because I use PEDs. One of my daughters is a very good gymnast. My other one's 4, so she will be an athlete of some sort, I'm pretty sure. She'll do some kind of sport. Would I be against them using PEDs? I would. But if they showed me that they had passion and they really wanted to pursue a sport that, they had to use PEDs in, or they don't have to, but they could, I would support them. But I would never say, yeah, let's do PEDs. But if, like in my situation, I've been all in bodybuilding since I was like 18. I started cooking all my meals at like 16. Every single meal since then I've done. So you can see the level that I was committed to at a young age. So at 25, when I did PEDs, yeah, you'd never encourage someone to do it, but you could sort of see how dedicated I was. So if they had that kind of attitude, I would support them, but I wouldn't encourage it. Especially being females, the female body is a lot more temperamental than a male, and it's less forgiving. For a male, if I get more facial hair, if I get more body hair, cool. If you're a female, you get more facial hair, your clitoris turns into a mini penis, like, not reversible, really. Your voice starts going like this. You go from Jane to John, almost. You don't want to be doing that. So I definitely wouldn't want my daughters to be doing that, but I would support them. Would I coach them though? I don't know. I would. It's hard because as a parent, I think that you want to sometimes just be a parent and not be their coach or their trainer. But at the same time, you've got the wealth of knowledge and it's free. So you might think you probably would help them at the start, but then I would probably like to handball them off at a later stage to somebody who I think could do them justice and look after their health. And I could sort of have a bit part in it, but just be dad in the end. And her last question, she also talked about, why do you think people aren't honest about what they take? Now, these days, I think people are pretty honest. People these days generally, well, I'm talking about stuff here. 10, 15 years ago, we only had like Boston Lloyd and people thought he was crazy. And he was quite crazy. But like nowadays, people are more inclined to talk about PEDs because, and not just PEDs, peptides, performance-enhancing drugs, nootropics, they're very, very common now in even the general public, So I think people don't want to talk about it because they are seen as cheaters. They're seen as, oh, you're taking the easy way out. But really, when you know about these things, most people in your gym that you probably go to have tried some kind of performance-enhancing drug. And they don't look like it, but they've tried. So these days, I think people are more forthcoming about giving information about things, about telling you what they've tried. They might not be talking the truth about the dosages. And I think the reason for that is people want to seem like, oh, I take the least, so I'm better than you, And then people that tell the truth who are taking maybe high doses of what people think are reasonable, they get labeled, oh, they're drug pig. But that's not always the case. A lot of people will just dance around the topic and they won't really say dosages, which is fine because you don't want to you don't want someone who's at a high level of, say, a bodybuilder who told you their doses, and then someone who's in the first year of competing thinks, I've got to do that. Because like I said, everything is a stepping stone. You don't start off driving the Ferrari when you get your L's, you start in a Prius. Hopefully it's not an electric car, but you get what I'm saying. You don't start at the top. You start low and you build up slow. So that's probably the reason I think people aren't as honest. But these days, the general person now is quite accepting of steroids compared to about 10, 15 years ago. And just peptides in general now are widespread. Celebrities use them, athletes use them, and even PEDs, like even people that don't compete, a lot of people will use them too. And I'm not saying it's right, but the main thing is I think there's a lot more awareness out now. And yeah, it would be nice if everyone told the truth, but people want to feel good about themselves and make themselves feel better, so they sugarcoat what they do. So that's all I got for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Now I'm going to open up, obviously, on my Instagram, I'll put up a question box every now and then for question and answer. So if you've got any questions that you want answering, put them up. I'll give you a shout out here. And the main thing is, with anything, I'm not a doctor. I am literally just giving you my experiences from research that I've done on myself. Okay, so remember, you are in control of your health. Do not let anyone dictate what you need to do with your health, with performance enhancing and whatnot. You're responsible for it. So if you're into bodybuilding, one thing I say is get your blood work, trial things in a safe manner. Do not be crazy with doses, okay? There is no need for that. And monitor things, all right? It is a snail's race. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So take your time. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. And like I said, if you're interested in anything else, hit me up on Instagram, throw me a DM. I'm more than happy to help. So peace.